In this lesson, you'll be shown how to keep score. The pin in the middle is called the head pin, and it's worth 5 points. The pins on either side of the head pin are worth 3 points each and are called 3 pins. The pins on the outside are called corner pins and are worth 2 points each. This adds up to a total of 15 points at the end of the lane. There are 10 frames in a game. A bowler can throw 3 balls in a frame, but the frame is over if the bowler has knocked out all of the pins on the first or second balls. You keep track of each ball thrown in the small boxes and keep track of the total score in the bottom of the frame. A missed shot is marked with a hyphen, a horizontal line indicating that no pins were knocked down on that ball. The count, of course, is 0. In these examples, Jennifer is throwing the first ball of the frame. This is called a head pin. It's marked with the letters HP in the first box to indicate that Jennifer punched out the head pin on the first ball of the frame. It's worth 5 points, and Jennifer will throw 2 more balls to complete the frame. The count of the second ball will be inserted into the second box, and the third ball count in the last box. This is called a split, or more accurately, a head pin split. A head pin split happens when the head pin and one of the 3 pins is knocked down when the bowler is trying for a strike. It is marked with the letters HS in the first box and is worth 8 points, 5 for the head pin and 3 for the 3 pin. It doesn't matter which 3 pin is knocked down with the head pin. The head pin and either 3 pin is a head pin split. Aces is marked with an A. You get them by knocking down the head pin and both 3 pins on one ball. It's worth 11 points, 5 plus 3 plus 3. A chop-off, usually bowlers just call it a chop, happens when the 3 pin and the 2 pin on the same side of the lane remain standing when throwing for a strike. It's marked with a C/O in the first box. The pins knocked down are worth 10 points, 5 plus 3 plus 2. The chop may leave the left 3 and 2 pins, or the right 3 and 2 pins. The C/O covers both types of chops. Corner pins are a very common occurrence in bowling. A bowler may leave a left corner pin marked with an L or a right corner pin marked with an R. The pins knocked down are worth 13 points. When pins are remaining after throwing the first ball, and you clear the remaining pins on your second ball, it's called a spare. A spare is shown by marking a diagonal line in the second box. When all the pins have been knocked down, the bowler has at least 15 points. The first box indicates what happened on the first ball of the frame, while the diagonal in the second box shows that the remaining pins were knocked down. This gives 15 points for the first 2 balls, plus whatever points the bowler knocks down on the first ball of the next frame. If the first ball of the next frame was a 3 pin, then a 3 pin would be put in the third box of this frame to count 18 in all. A head pin would have brought the count to 20. A strike occurs when all the pins are knocked down on the first ball of a frame. However, in the 10th frame you have to throw all 3 balls and could possibly get 3 strikes. The mark for a strike looks like a backwards Y, which is put in the first box, and it's worth 15 points. No extra balls are thrown. However, the next 2 balls count twice, once in the frame that they are thrown and once added on to the strike. The first ball that the bowler throws after the strike is marked in the second box. The second ball thrown after the strike is marked in the third box and completes the count of the strike. For example, 13 and 2 on 2 balls makes a strike worth 30. 15 and 15 make the strike worth 45. When you bowl, your score goes up from the first frame to the 10th, but there's a way of reducing your score by fouling. When you foul, you mark an F under the box in which you fouled. In this case, the second ball, 15 points are subtracted from your score at the end of each game for each foul. Your score cannot be less than 0. This is the most common foul. Sliding over the foul line while throwing the ball causes the foul light to come on and the buzzer to ring. The bowler must stay behind the foul line at all times. Subtract 15 points at the end of the game. Even though Jennifer stepped over the foul line, so the buzzer would not ring and the light did not come on, it is still a foul. You'll notice she is on the lane side of the foul line. This might seem like a picky way to foul, but Jennifer triggered the foul light by crossing the foul line as she turned around just after she let go of the ball. Now here Jennifer stays behind the foul line while throwing the ball, but she still manages to foul. Notice the small object in the right gutter. You might have heard a sound as it fell off Jennifer's collar. Any article that you wear that lands on the other side of the foul line is called a foul, even if it's just a pen in your pocket. Notice the pin lying on the right side of the lane. Down pins on the lane are called deadwood, and they must be removed before Jennifer throws the ball or it's a foul. Here Jennifer sticks on the approach, walks onto the lane, and turns on the foul light as she turns around. This is not a foul. To foul, you must throw a ball. She did not throw the ball, so there is no foul. Now that you've been introduced to various parts of keeping score, here's some rules to help you put it all together. Your turn is over if you've knocked down all the pins or you've thrown 3 balls. In the 10th frame, you get to throw 3 balls even if you've knocked down all the pins. After every ball, at least one box is marked. A spare is worth 15 points plus the next ball thrown, and a strike is worth 15 points plus the next 2 balls thrown. Except for the 10th frame, you don't get to throw any additional balls when you strike or spare. The next balls you throw count in the frame that you throw them and on the strike or spare. In the 10th frame, however, you must throw 3 balls to complete the frame. When throwing for a strike, if you hit the head pin, you mark down letters to indicate the hit. For example, L for left, R for right, CO for a chop off, HP for a head pin, HS for a head pin split, or A for aces. Otherwise, mark down numbers, and to show 0, mark a dash or a small horizontal line. This form of scoring will allow you to recreate the game when it's done. To throw strikes, you must hit the head pin on the first ball. This scoring method helps identify whether you need to hit the middle more often or which corner pin you might not be sparing. The best way to learn how to keep score is to get some practice doing it. There are 15 points at the end of the lane, 5 in the middle, 5 on the right-hand side, and 5 on the left-hand side. Pay attention not only to the scoring, but also the way the ball is thrown and the strategies Jennifer uses to make her spares. Although there are 10 frames in a game, only 4 frames will be shown at a time. Each ball will be marked in the upper boxes, and the game totals will be marked in the bottom of each frame. Frame 1, the first ball. That is a head pin punch. It's marked by an HP in the first box, and it's worth 5 points. On her second ball, Jen takes out the left hand 3-2. We mark that by putting a 5 in the second box. At this point, she has 10, with 1 ball to go. On her third ball of the frame, she hits no pins. We indicate that with a dash in the third box of the frame and a total of 10. As she prepares for the second frame, you'll notice she's using all of the examples of good form that were learned earlier. Taking her time, concentrating, fingertip grip, and when she's ready, smooth delivery. On the first ball, she leaves the right corner pin. We indicate that with an R in the first box of the second frame. Count of 13 at the moment, with 2 balls to throw. You'll see her lining up to the left, adjusting for the corner pin, so that she'll throw the ball diagonally across the target, using as much of the lane as she can, and she spares it. We indicate that with a diagonal line in the second box of frame 2, and the frame is over, with 1 ball yet to count. On the first ball of the third frame, Jennifer scores aces. We indicate this by placing an A in the first box of frame 3. That gives her 11 for that frame, and we've completed frame 2 now. You'll notice that there's an 11 plus the 15 for the spare gives her a 26 count of that frame, added to the 10 from the first frame. She now has a total score of 36 after 2, and 2 balls to throw in the third. On the second ball, she picks up one of the 2 pins, so we put a 2 in the second box of the third frame, and we wait for her third ball. And the third ball of the third frame is a miss, indicated by a dash in the third box, for a frame total of 11 plus 2 plus 0 for 13, added to the 36 of the second frame, giving you a total of 49. So close, a left corner pin is marked for the fourth frame with an L in the first box. 13 at the moment, 2 balls to throw. You may think that that's a spare. However, when the ball leaves the lane, it can't come back and knock anything down and still have it count. We indicate this with a miss, with a dash in the second box of the fourth frame. The pin must be manually reset, and she'll shoot at it again. And another miss on the third ball is indicated with another dash in the third box of the fourth frame. 13 for a total of that frame, added to the 49, gives her 62 in the fourth. Nice follow through. Fifth frame, she misses on the left hand side, taking out a 3 and a 2. We indicate this with a 5 in the first box of the fifth frame. Second ball, the ball crosses the target, takes out the 5-3-2 for a spare, indicated by a diagonal line in the second box. The spare is worth 15 plus the first ball of the sixth frame. Nice ball, high on the left-hand side. Jennifer scores a strike. Even the best bowlers only get strikes a little more than half the time that they hit the middle. We've now completed frame 5. Because of the strike in the sixth, we're going to put a 15 in the third box in frame 5. Now her count is 5 and 10 and 15. 30 points for the fifth frame added to the 62 gives her 92 after 5. And we've inserted that backward Y we were talking about in the first box, and she has 2 balls that will count back onto frame 6 from the 7th. The strike is worth 15 plus the next 2 balls. There's the first ball of the 7th, and it's another strike! Jennifer has now scored a double, 2 strikes in a row in bowling slang. Let's have a look at the score sheet. We mark the strike with one of those backwards Ys in the 7th frame. That ball also counts in the 6th frame, which we've indicated with a 15 in the second box. She now has 15 plus 15 with one ball yet to count in the 6th frame, and a 15 in the 7th with 2 more balls to count. Let's see what she does in the 8th. One more strike. Unbelievable. Three strikes in a row is called a triple, a three-bagger, or a turkey. No, we don't know where it comes from, but it's a lot of fun to get one. Okay, now we're going to follow this. If you'll notice in the 6th frame, we've added 15 there to the 30 that she already has for a 45 count, which is the maximum she can get in any frame. We've added that to the 92 in the 5th, so after 6 frames, she has 137 points. Now, we've also taken that same strike from the 8th, we've added it into the 2nd box of the 7th frame. 7th frame is now worth 15 plus 15, plus there's one more ball yet to count. And as Jennifer steps up onto the approach, she's pretty focused. She finds her spot, goes into her readying position in her stance, consistent as usual. Nice delivery, high follow through, and the ball hits the left hand side, taking out the 5-pin and the 3-pin, leaving a head split. We'll indicate this with an HS in the first box of the 9th frame. Now we've completed the 7th frame. If you'll notice, we've added an 8 in the 3rd box. She has 15 plus 15 plus 8 for a 38 count in the 7th frame, added to the 137 of the 6th, giving her 175 in total after 7. We've also taken the same 8 points, added into the 2nd box of the 8th frame, and she's throwing her 3rd ball now, and she picks a 3-2 but fouls. 2 things happen. We have to mark an F underneath the 2nd box indicating where the foul happened. We also score 5 points in the 9th frame on the 2nd box, and that 5 points is added to the 8th frame 3rd box to complete the frame there, giving her 15 plus 8 plus 5, which is 28, added to the 175, giving her 203 after 8 frames, with one ball yet to count in the 9th. As she steps up to throw the final ball of the frame, she moves across the lane to shoot for the corner, lines up very carefully, and she picks it for a 2 count on the 3rd ball of her 9th frame, completing the 9th, giving her 8 plus 5 plus 2 for 15, added to 203 in the 8th. She has 218 after 9 frames. In the first ball of the 10th frame, Jennifer does hit the middle on the right hand side, taking out the 5, the 3, and the 2, which, if you'll remember, we call a chop off. We indicate that by putting a C/O in the first box of the 10th frame. She has 10 points on her first ball and 2 more balls to count. Now remember, in the 10th frame, she'll throw all 3 balls no matter what. Let's see what she does on her 2nd ball. And she spares it, taking out the 3-2. We mark a spare again with a diagonal line in the 2nd box of the 10th frame. The frame is not complete. She has 1 more ball to count. At the moment, she has 10 plus 5, and let's see what she does on the 3rd one. Intense concentration, and she blows by on the left-hand side, picking out a 3-pin. We mark the 3-pin, the last ball, with a 3 in the 3rd box of the 10th frame. In that frame, she scored 10 plus 5 plus 3 for 18, which we add to the 218 in the 9th frame for a total of 236. However, remember, we have a foul that we must remove from the frame before. So at the end, after taking 15 points off for the foul, Jennifer's final score is 221. If Jennifer had fouled more than once, each foul would have been subtracted at the end of the game. But remember, she cannot finish with a game less than 0. There's no such thing as a minus score in bowling. Now remember, memorize the value of the pins. At first you may have to add each pin as you keep score, but in time you'll begin to know the count of fallen pins without having to add them up each time. Okay, remember now how this system allows us to review the game as it happens. On her first frame she punched a head pin, the first ball. Second ball she got 5, and our third ball she missed, counting 0. R for a right corner pin on her first ball, she spared that. First ball of the third frame she counted aces, followed that with a 2 pin and another miss. Fourth frame, L for a left corner pin, she missed the spare and missed again. Fifth frame, 5 on the first ball, a spare for the second ball, and the first ball of the 6th frame was a strike. First ball of the 7th frame was a strike. The 8th frame was a strike. 9th frame she got a head split, 5 on her second ball, and fouled, and 2 pin on her last ball. In her final frame she got a chop off, spared it, and followed that with a 3 pin. For a 236 total, which we had to remove 15 from, giving her a grand total of 221. If you get strikes on every ball, you'll throw 12 strikes for a perfect game of 450. You can work that out if you like.